What's good, kings and queens? Hope everyone's doing alright. This week's video is on when boxers stand on business. It pretty much explains itself with the title. With that being said, let's start the video. This is possibly the most mainstream, picture in the dictionary example. If you want the full in-depth story, I made a tale of it many years back. So after the meme to oblivion, world star moment, drama with Broner versus Maidana, with Broner now becoming a 3-division champion, riding on the wave as Mayweather's little bro, launching him too high in popularity to where Broner became lost in the sauce.
Oh yeah, what you on tour? Drinking oil? Eating a lot? I've been on tour for about 2 months now. I came to a conclusion that rapping is not for an athlete. Look at me. Hey. Tour's over tomorrow. We're back at it.
Instead of moving back down to lightweight, having his own Mayweather sweepstakes events, Broner decided to keep the weight and leave his next fight up to the fans. And the fans wanted a fight with Maidana. Maidana, who is training like a madman for this moment. Go big or go home and retire. When you look back in retrospect, all of his faults from years prior, he had corrected under his new trainer, Robert Garcia.
My manager was looking for the best trainer out there. Of course, Robert Garcia is one of them. My manager then connected me with Robert. One of the things Robert is emphasizing is getting me back to basics. He's looking at my mistakes, which is making me a better boxer and a better all-round fighter.
Broner, who is aware of Maidana's reputation as an incredibly tough fighter, was unaware of how much he has improved, as his team was more than likely watching the Khan and Devin Alexander fight where Devin put up a shutout performance. Despite Maidana setting the tone right at the first round, Broner tries to show that he's in no trouble, like Maidana was just another Gavin Reese. In round 2, Broner found out this ain't no Gavin Reese, to get dropped for the first time in his career.
Right hand lead by Maidana that sticks. Another right hand. Broner goes down for the first time in his career. He's hurt bad, and he's hurt.
Which he will handle quite well, till he got hit with even greater shots he did not see to barely make it out of the round, all thanks to his conditioning and heart. Maidana not once let off and drifted from the game plan, while Broner, who was having some moments when he was throwing a higher punch count and forcing Maidana on the back foot, would drift away from that rightful correction just for Maidana, who never drifted away, to close the fight big and give Broner his first loss. In 2008, Miguel Cotto would receive his first loss of his career against Antonio Margarito. It was discovered when Margarito fought Mosley there was plaster found in his hand wraps. This opened up the case that there was illegal wrap tampering in the Cotto fight, with Margarito's hand wraps from HBO B-roll cameras looking awfully suspicious.
There was such a distraction about the tape on the wrist. You know that could be the fake out. I'll show you this to give you something else. So I checked the pad, and when I checked the pad, it felt hard. So then the commissioner felt that, he said, that feels pretty hard. And the commissioner flipped it open, and a block fell out of it.
Due to being caught in the Mosley fight, Margarito received a 1-year suspension.
The California State Athletic Commission found sulfur and calcium in the knuckle pads, ingredients that form plaster of Paris. As a result, the commission voted unanimously to suspend both boxer and trainer for a year, pending reinstatement.
And Cotto, who now believes his loss was not legitimate, has found a new fire in himself to seek revenge. Cotto would finally have his day in 2011, as seen in the 24/7 and the face-off with Max Kellerman. Look at Cotto's attitude and look at Margarito's, who was gladly obliging to fan more flames leading up to the fight.
Demuestra ahí, ¿para qué estás hablando? Demuéstrale ahí. Así será. Entonces, así será. Entonces, demuéstrale ahí, no hables. Así va a ser. Espero verlo y sentirlo.
Unfortunately, I can't show you the fight footage. However, Cotto stood on business, not being discouraged to press forward, forcing Margarito on the back foot, something that Cotto was not doing in previous fights, and just punishing him round after round till the fight was stopped in the 9th round. For more info on the backstory, I did a whole tale on the build-up. Neri did some real dishonorable things in both his fights against Yamanaka, which led to a lifetime ban by the JBC. Since the other bodies weren't taking the JBC seriously, the JBC was going to make a statement.
体重関係なく、 相手より弱かったっていうだけですけど、今後にいやもちろんもうこれが最後ですよ。はい。これで終わりです。まあ一生懸命やった。それだけです。
Inoue always wanted to fight with Neri, couldn't get the fight as Neri had failed to make weight and what would have been a setup fight, and a frustrated Inoue called for Neri to get banned for life. Fast forward years later, Inoue will finally get his due and become one of the biggest names pound for pound in the sport, and a lot of power in making big fights happen in Japan. Inoue wanted the Neri fight to be in Japan, with the sole purpose of avenging the humiliation that happened in 2018. The JBC, who also wanted to see this happen, recognized that Inoue is not only the most biggest star in combat sports, but also the most qualified to do the job where they will not regret the decision they have made, because they have already been humiliated twice. Well, in this case, you had three parties that stood on business: the JBC, Inoue, and Neri. Neri made it very clear that he will not allow the fight to go past the early rounds, which Neri, the much more looser, warmed-up fighter, dropped Inoue for the first time in his career in the first round. Pause. Dude floored Inoue in winning gloves. That man can crack. Living up to his word, Neri will go balls out to get Inoue out of there, with Inoue weathering what Neri gave him and returned it back. Inoue, now taking his best shot and almost has his timing down, now knows he got him in the bag. Inoue would tie up the knockout count in the second round. By midway through the third, Neri seemed visibly tired. He had less speed on his shots, less power, however he's still incredibly heavy-handed. Neri would leave himself open to get dropped for the second time in the fifth round. In the sixth round, Inoue would slowly chip away to set up the knockout, absolutely leveling Neri to secure and complete the revenge mission. In the early 2010s, when Martinez became the man at middleweight, just before he could truly shine, he got screwed over pretty bad by the powers to be to prop up the godson of the WBC president, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. The WBC, WBA, and later IBF was put into place where conflicts of interest doesn't happen, and the fighter, no matter where he comes from, where he fights from, is equally represented. The treaded trail of this pettiness led to the WBC and HBO allegedly colluding together to make this happen. Sergio's mandatory opponent was the 30-0 Sebastian Zvick. HBO claimed that a fight with Sebastian was not HBO worthy and refused to air the fight, meanwhile putting forward the 37-0 Sergey Tinzurek for Martinez to face, as they considered that worthy to be on HBO. Martinez, who did not have a large enough domestic support or come from a profitable boxing nation with fans to follow, had to just accept what HBO determined as acceptable, resulting in Martinez to be stripped by the WBC for not fighting his mandatory.
Much rather have you fight a more difficult opponent like Sergey Zinzaruk. And the WBC, instead of letting Zinzaruk fight for the title, and Zinzaruk was a credible fighter, much better than Zabik, says, oh, we're going to take your title away from you.
After Martinez demolished Sergey and the poor ratings and gate to follow the fight, HBO now claimed this fight wasn't a worthy fight, all while promoting and airing Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. to face Sebastian Zvick for the WBC title.
Ross Greenberg was the president of HBO Sports, and I'll never forget this, and he told me that Zvick was not worthy of being on HBO. He didn't say not worthy to fight Sergio Martinez, he said he was not worthy to be on their network. A few months later, after he forces the issue on Sergio Martinez is now stripped of his title, the fighter that HBO wanted him to fight, they then turn around and they approve Sebastian Zvick to make a title defense on HBO in a main event against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
The squeeze was so blatantly out there that no one batted an eye upon this taking place. Martinez felt absolutely disgusted of the situation, as this puts him in a weird spot where he has to go through a lot of pointless title eliminations to earn his shot at a title because he is not profitable.
The cable operators, the satellite providers don't know who the hell he is, and they're not going to get behind it with advertising dollars. Sergio Martinez does not have that background. Now, that's not my fault. I'm not his promoter. No, Sergio's promoter should get off his ass and build them as a pay-per-view attraction. It's really simple.
And even then, they can find a way, just like we've seen today with Francisco Estrada, Adonis Stevenson, Deontay Wilder, and the other shenanigans at heavyweight. Mandatories can be shelved easily to wait forever for a shot.
Me siento poco valorado, me siento un poco maltratado. Se comportaron muy mal conmigo, muy mal.
Martinez's handlers went tooth and nail fighting for Martinez to be the mandatory.
Estoy seguro y convencido que mañana se va a hacer justicia con Sergio Maravilla Martínez y va a ser el campeón real.
Momento, no hay injusticia con Sergio.
Calling out the WBC to do the right thing.
I expect the WBC to do the right thing as it usually does. This man is your champion. This is the best middleweight in the world, and no one understands and no one in the world thinks otherwise.
Lusa, can you please sit down?
Pressured by this, as this is now in the open with cameras and reporters seeing this with their eyes, the WBC made the wise decision of ordering the Martinez-Chavez fight to be made.
Okay? And it is signed by the WBC. And it is signed by Sergio Martinez.
That we are not going to accept that.
No, I just would like you to see it and have it.
Who is telling you that the WBC is against it?
I'd like you to read this and pass it along.
I don't have to read this and pass it along. Listen.
Nunca vas a ser famoso, nunca. Nunca te bailar. ¿Qué te quiere? Ni los argentinos, ni los españoles.
Chavez Jr., well aware of the situation, did a lot of trash talking towards Martinez, fueling more gasoline to Martinez's fire for vindication.
Yo decía, no quiero pelear contigo.
Entonces yo no me equivocaba cuando decía que tú eres una marioneta.
Si no quería hacer la pelea porque no generabas dinero.
Entonces no me equivoco cuando decía que tú eres una marioneta.
Porque es una bailarina, es un bailarín. Está bailando en un programa.
But you said ballerina. I mean, you're trying to insult him, no?
Maravilla, bailarina.
Martinez didn't just want to win, but he wanted to punish Chavez.
Ojalá te proteja tu rincón, ojalá te proteja el árbitro, ojalá te proteja el médico, porque te voy a hacer daño. ¿Cómo vas a hacer para agarrarme, Julio?
El ring es un cuadrado como esto. No te puedes salir.
Tú tampoco.
Round after round, Martinez was pummeling Chavez to where there were talks of stopping the fight. Chavez was able to show something which allowed the fight to continue. Down on all scorecards by a wide margin, Chavez needed the TKO in the championship rounds. He was able to drop Martinez with plenty of time left on the clock in the 12th. Martinez, who injured his knee upon falling from the knockdown and sustained a broken left hand earlier in the 4th, refused to not go on the defensive when he had every right to, as he was so far up on the scorecards. He did not want to give Chavez the benefit of saying, oh, I had him and he just ran, or I didn't lose, I just ran out of time. Martinez went toe-to-toe in the pocket with Chavez till the bell rung, which made the victory even more satisfying, ending the fight like how he started it. Little intermission here. To help the rest of the good old folks see this video, be sure to hit that like button. YouTube has been doing your boy bad with not sharing the latest uploads to the new subscribers, literally throttling the amount who can see the latest uploads. The comment section topic today is, who and what got you into boxing? Leave in the comments. Thanks for sticking around, and let's get back to the video. This was right around the time when both the WBC and WBA was formed. Ali defeated Sonny Liston. He was the undisputed World Heavyweight Champion. Ali was stripped of the WBA title for giving Liston a rematch, which it was completely normal that a rematch was always given depending on how the fight went, to the former champion. However, the WBA stripped Ali. Ernie Terrell became the WBA champion, and their path would finally meet 2 years later.
He's going around claiming to be the real heavyweight champ. But after I'm finished, he'll just be a tramp. Now, I'm not saying this just to be funny, but I'm fighting Ernie because he needs the money.
Terrell refused to call Ali by his new name of Muhammad Ali.
He made mush of Ali. In effect, he called him a religious phony, a draft dodger, everything. He made mush of him. And I had that terrible scene at the Garden when They almost came to blows.
referring him to his birth name of Cassius Clay. Even after Ali corrected Ernie, Ernie refused to call him by his name.
In the past that I have done was publicity stunts, that's all. But this time it was serious, and I almost struck him. I did hit him on the hand.
He said in a press conference that he was going to beat me so bad until I was going to change and call him, Muhammad. But when I found out that calling him Cassius Clay upset him, and that's what I call him, especially with a fight on, because, we fighting, what else could we do?
This struck a nerve with Ali, and when it came to the fight, Ali punished Terrell round by round, yelling out to Terrell, "What is my name?" Then continued to punish him. Ali would pull every dirty trick out the book, getting in thumbs and all.
And then Ali, I don't know whether he planned this or not, but what he did, he caught me around the neck and poked his finger in my eye. And my eye jammed and would not turn for the rest of that night. One eye just stayed straight, and the other one would follow him around like the other one. This eye was jammed. And I was seeing two guys, and I had to change my style to a kind of a peekaboo style.
This somehow managed to go all 15 rounds. Ernie would look unrecognizable after the fight. When Joe Louis retired from boxing, he pursued his biggest passion besides boxing, which was the sport of golf, which he did a lot in between fights during his pro career. Joe was really good, however there were prominent black golfers alongside Joe during this time. Due to Joe's status as the most famous and recognizable figure in the free world, and him rising up through the amateur ranks, the PGA invited him to the San Diego Open to compete. Joe, knowing the PGA rules and regulations quite well, knows that black people are forbidden from competing in golf. He raised that to attention for the nation to see, and purposely wanted the president of the PGA to be caught up in his own hypocrisy, being forced to address that Joe Louis could not play due to the rules.
It's indeed unfortunate that certain misunderstandings developed in connection with the 1952 PGA co-sponsored San Diego Invitational Open Golf Tournament.
Joe Louis used his status to call out the PGA president, Horton Smith, and really just publicly grill him. This would reach over to one of the most influential columnists in media, Walter Winchell, who brought this story to nationwide attention, completely embarrassing the PGA. Due to the story coming out, the PGA opened the doors to black golfers and golfers of color to play in PGA events. Joe Louis, followed up by other talented golfers, became the first of their status to compete in PGA events. In the world of the modern Western version boxer, mostly American unfortunately, who is always a victim, carries this victim mentality when having the most privileged run for title fights, positive media coverage, ranking and all. Teofimo Lopez defied those stereotypes. You have fighters who just cry and whine why they're not getting the biggest fights and not doing anything about it. They'd rather be inactive, seasonally fighting maybe 1 or 2 fights a year, if lucky 2 fights a year, continue to keep calling out guys they want to fight that politically they can fight on the internet rather than doing something about it. Teofimo is a great example of not being a victim and standing on business of what he wants in his career. He wanted to fight against Vasil Lomachenko. Vasil is campaigning for undisputed unification. So as long as he is unifying and these unifications are made by such a deadline, he doesn't have to fight his mandatory. So becoming his mandatory is a very stupid thing. You're going to be waiting around, gathering dust, and fighting on Twitter. Teofimo, who really wanted this fight, who wasn't faking jacks like other folks, used common sense and went from the absolute bottom, won every national and regional belt, earning himself contender status to be in line for a title that Vasil doesn't have, which Teofimo will become the IBF champion. Teofimo now has what Vasil wants and desperately needs, so he's more than willing to make this happen. And despite the crazy betting odds, this incredibly difficult path did not go in vain, as he rose to the occasion to defeat Vasil by a close decision to become the unified champion. In 2004, Zab Judah will fall short, going 0-2 in undisputed championship fights after losing to Corey Spinks by unanimous decision. However, Judah did enough to spark a rematch. Zab's career and legacy on the line, resulting in the most focused, peak version of him coming into this fight. This would be held in Spinks' backyard of St. Louis. Absolutely hostile territory for Judah. This would be in full display during Spinks' ring walk. Nelly, at the peak of his career, who is also from St. Louis, performed for Spinks' ring walk. And in my years of watching fighter ring walks in the States, I don't think I've ever seen a crowd reaction on this level where the entire crowd all at the same time chanting and going along with the music for their two homegrown stars. Even when the performance had ended, that crowd was electrified.
That's the best entrance I've ever seen in boxing. Hard to top it. And while the sellout crowd chants, Corey, Corey, we'll lead you to the tail of the tape.
Despite the competitiveness of the fight, the hostile crowd, Judah stuck to his game plan and not once branched away, and took every opportunity that came his way. As the fight was really starting to heat up in the second half, Spinks complaining to the ref while not focusing on Judah. Judah taking the opportunity to lay leather on him, scoring. This would catch up with Spinks, and in the 9th round, a distracted Spinks would get hit by a shot he didn't see to the last fraction of a second by Judah. Zab, taking no chances as he may very well be down in the scorecards, would take Spinks out that round to become the undisputed welterweight champion.
Does the rope tell them up? It's all over! Zab Judah has come into St. Louis and upset Corey Spinks in Spinks' backyard!
This story goes deeper because this affected lineal champion Darius Mikuszewski, who had been mistreated by the WBA and IBF prior to the scandal, which created this steel curtain between Darius and the rest of the belt organization that wanted to keep their belts in America for the cash cow of the weight class, Roy Jones Jr. In summer of 1997, Roy Jones Jr. would regain the WBC light heavyweight title, defeating Montel Griffin in their rematch. Roy would vacate the title January of 1998 to move up to the heavyweight division to face Buster Douglas May 2nd of that year. In March, the number 1 ranked Michael Nunn would face number 2 ranked Graziano Rossiggiani in Germany. The wrong guy politically won that fight, which was Graziano. The stage was set for a huge unification fight with Rossiggiani and Darius Mikuszewski. Then all of a sudden Roy came back in the picture. Roy got cold feet due to his dad and backed out of the Douglas fight a month or so out. Graziano would wrongfully be demoted to interim champion status, and Roy Jones Jr. stayed as champion in recess, which that makes no sense at all because Roy vacated the title to move up and fight, and this recess status wasn't issued till after he had backed out against Douglas. And even then, Graziano and Nunn fought for Roy's vacant title earlier that year. To dig themselves deeper in their own BS, the WBC claimed it was a typographical error that this was a title fight when it should have been an interim title fight. Jones versus Graziano was made, however it was canceled due to Graziano not being able to attend the New York press conference for a fight being held in Mississippi. This ultimately restored Roy as champion and killed Graziano's potential purse for a big fight against Darius. Have they seen the events in Germany and the money generated and who's investing? They must have thought that Graziano and the bigwigs in Germany were just going to accept this with their tails between their legs. Yeah. No, Graziano will sue the WBC for lost earnings and damages from 1998 to 2000 when leading up to his fight with Darius. In 2003, the New York court ruled in Graciano's favor, awarding him $31 million, resulting in the WBC to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and to reinstate Graciano as WBC champion from 1998 to when the time he fought Darius Mikushevsky in 2000. To save the organization, the WBC was able to come up with a settlement deal with Graciano to be able to withdraw from bankruptcy. The amount that was given to Graciano is undisclosed. And on top of that, this is When Boxers Stand on Business Part 1. For more installments, be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. This being on the tale of Floyd Mayweather versus Ricky Hatton. I'm Office Honcho, and I'm out.